This is your footing for a G-turn. Your back foot wants to be flat across the board at the tail, but your front foot wants to be at about a 45-degree angle towards the end of the nose. Your stance is very important for this trick. You don't want to be side on with your shoulders in line with the board, like a street skater doing straight nose manuals. Instead, you want to be at a 45-degree angle following the line of the foot. This kind of open stance with your chest kind of looking into the turn will help you relax and sink into it and get a good carve as you go. The first mistake that everyone makes with G-turns is actually thinking of it as a spin. It's not really a technique problem, it's a mental one. As soon as you start thinking about this as being some sort of spin, whether consciously or unconsciously, you start moving your back leg out. Now, as soon as the back leg is allowed to move at all, you're not going to get the carve, you're not going to get the full arc. Instead, it just becomes this. You've basically, at that point, just done an end over. Now, a G-turn is a very different beast. A G-turn, you actually have to swing into it with a front side carve first, and then lift up the back end while holding the back leg as still as possible. You have to rely on the carve, basically just settle into it, and let that carve swing you through an arc. Whenever I teach people G-turns in person, I always say the key to making it work is to sit on it. Which is a bit of a weird thing to say, but that's kind of what it feels like when you get a good one. You've got to carve into it, as I just said, but then you've got to lock your lower body up completely. And the position you kind of want to be in feels like you're sitting down slightly. You bend the knee and you effectively stick your arse out way past your heels. That position should help you keep it carving frontside as you go through the trick. But it's important that once you're in that position, you don't move your legs. Everything just has to lock completely still and you just ride it out until the end of the turn. And because of the fact that everything just locks up, there's much less balance involved in this than there is with most wheelie-based tricks. Obviously, you've got to prevent yourself from going too far forward. Try and resist this urge. Your upper body, your shoulders and your core should basically stay in line with the ankle of the front foot to make sure everything stays balanced. But once you're in that position, you just kind of relax. Just let everything sit exactly where it needs to be and just ride it out. In comparison, straight nose wheelies often require quite a bit of readjustment, constant movement. I learned G-turns way before I learned to do them straight. It's much, much easier to just sling into an arc and let centrifugal force hold you where you need to be. Due to the nature of this trick, as you wheel through this arc, you'll spiral in on yourself, getting tighter and tighter and tighter until eventually you're stuck right in the middle of the storm with basically nowhere to go. Now, the faster you go into this, the further you can keep that arc going and the bigger the spiral will be. To begin with, you'll probably keep it quite small. You'll want to go at it quite slow and you'll get the eponymous G, that capital G shape on the floor as you basically pull into the middle of the arc that you created to begin with. Now, as you get a bit better at this and you go into it faster and you draw this long sweeping arc, you'll probably find that you'll naturally do what I keep doing, in that all of this speed has to go somewhere, but you've run out of space to carve into. So you just draw everything in, pull your body in and your arms in as tight as possible, and just hold it for a 360 or two at the end of the rotation. Whatever it is you choose to do at the end of the spin, let momentum do the work for you. Don't fight this trick. You just want to let it flow as smoothly as you can. That will make it easier on you, and it'll also make it look better. Those of you who know me, have seen me skate before, or have even just watched some of these trick tip videos in the past, will probably have noticed this isn't my standard board. I very rarely use a single kick, a flat nose board. But I decided to bring this out today for a couple of reasons. First of all, I really like the way G-turns feel on a single kick. I like the feeling of having my foot completely flat as I carve through. I think that's quite pleasing. Now, also this is a very different setup, as in the undercarriage, to what I normally use as well. These are very tall trucks. They're really tight. I think some freestylers would still consider that loose. There's some movement, but it's tight for me. And also I have big 6mm risers in here. What that does is it increases the angle that the board can get to before the nose hits the floor. That's quite important with a single kick because obviously if you've got a long flat nose, then there's not far that it has to go before it scrapes if you're using low trucks. Now you can also, of course, spin it round and use it that way, which increases the angle even further before it hits. If you are riding a single kick board, don't think you have to do this on the nose. If you're riding something with a really long nose or you've got really low trucks, just spin the board around. It'll make life a lot easier because there'll be so much more clearance before it hits. But also, the last reason that I brought this out is because I wanted to show that a G-turn is pretty much possible on any board. Doesn't matter whether you're riding a short-nosed pig from the early 1980s, a single kick freestyle board, a double kick freestyle board, or even a long board. A G-turn should work the same, which is why I brought something else out, and now I'm going to look like a fool. Let's give this a try. So here we are then. It's about as far from a freestyle board as I could get. As you can see, it's a very long, very thick, very heavy dancing board. Now, it's a bit of an oddball prototype. Shape seems all right, but got it a couple of days ago. Now, I used to longboard way back when, but I only ever really learned cross steps, shoves, kick flips, relatively basics. Never did a G-turn on a longboard. But in theory, the technique's the same. So let's see if it translates. Oh. Obviously it's a lot heavier, it's a lot more work, and I don't spin a 360 at the end of it, but yeah, providing your foot placement is right, and you keep your chest facing the spin, works and feels pretty much the same. Just ride it out.